People walk into my office and go, I want to kill myself. And it's truly a gift to them of wanting to kill the self, because this is often the self that they want to get rid of. And if you have the observer and you're watching the self, where am I then? So that capacity to actually really rewire the body and get this trauma that is so reflexively steering our world. I walk into a room and people turn around and all have frowns on their faces. We automatically go back into our past, feel all this time in second grade, third grade, fourth grade, the threat of getting kicked out of the herd. The most powerful motivator of all human beings is to feel connected and feel part of something. My name is Dr. Doug Brackmann. I am a licensed psychologist. This video is, I call it Being in Time, based upon a very prominent existential philosopher, a guy named Heidegger. Being in Time was the title of his book. And this is artistic, I will use that word loosely, rendering of really trying to explain a very complex subject in simple terms. And Drivens, we love to complicate things. And so I really try to make it parsimony, simple, simple, simple. And the key takeaway of this is really an understanding about the two different operating systems. If you watch some of other videos, there's a lot of them about that. And I talk about monkeys and elephant. Quick review on that. Very simply, the Buddha observed that the human being, that we are operating with two different systems. We have a system down below the nose, and this thing is a recording device. And what it does, it records traumas, records experiences that are a threat to our well-being. So if you touch a hot stove, every single cell in the nerve pathway remembers that experience, records it, hardware, and then hits the spine. It's this original mind that runs up and down and through our body and sends back an impulse to contract muscles. So that mind, that thinking machine, it thinks on its own. You don't have to think about, get my hand away from the stove. It is a reflex. That operating system, key part of that operating system is it is a real-time operating machine, meaning that the present moment is when you are experiencing these sensations, differentiating it from this sucker up between the ears. And what that is your time machine. So the Buddha conceived it, and I did my doctoral dissertation on self-sabotage. And it's why January sucks at the gym, because everybody's got a monkey up here that wants to have six-pack abs. This thing has a different agenda. Come February, you are stuck to the couch again. And so this observation that we are really two different systems trying to make sense of this weird experience being alive. And it was a trick question that the Buddha always asked people, where are you? Are you the monkey mind or are you the elephant down below? And you hear this metaphor often, a rider and a horse, or trick question, because it is obviously both and neither. And so that neither piece, this consciousness or this observing ego thing that's looking in, is really the foundation of all change. So if you get that concept and you have this ability to actually look in, hearing the monkeys argue with each other, hearing the cheerleader or the big gorilla trying to beat your butt back to the gym, and you can also feel the resistance to getting off the couch. And so the one who's watching that is the one who I want watching this video. So this is a way of articulating that relationship. And I did it before in the self-psychology video, really about how the concept of self is created by our biology. Where I'm going in this one is a little bit deeper into the trauma. And how does trauma actually work in the body? And how does trauma relate to this identity? And with the best intent, people walk into my office and go, I want to kill myself. And it's truly a gift to them of wanting to kill the self, because this is often the self that they want to get rid of. And if you have the observer and you're watching the self, where am I then? So that capacity to actually really rewire the body and get this trauma that is so reflexively steering our world, you in particular. I walk into a room and people turn around and all have frowns on their faces. We automatically go back into our past, feel all this time in second grade, third grade, fourth grade, the threat of getting kicked out of the herd. The most powerful motivator of all human beings is to feel connected and feel part of something. At one point, you were swimming around in your father's testicles, and the other one was in the fallopian tubes of your mother. And you didn't exist in time yet. You existed, but time for you as a particular entity, as a particular object, didn't exist. But boom, egg and sperm meet, and there you are. That's when time begins for you. And that's a really important concept where I'm going with this. So here's time. And at some point in the future, it will end for you. It ends for everybody. Hopefully that's not for a long time. And a lot of our biology, I'll make some other videos coming up about denial, but this operating system doesn't like to think about the end of time for me. What it likes to think about is usually the next day or two or a week or a month. We really are not designed for really looking at the whole life perspective. But that aside, we'll talk about here being the present moment. And building on that other self-psychology video, this present moment and how it's connected to the elephant is really one of the key takeaways that I'm trying to make a point in this video of, is that this is a real-time operating machine. This, the monkey mind, is the time machine. So being able to differentiate, there's my monkey mind, there's my thinking, from the sensations that are happening in the present. Because in this way we're constructed, and the artificial or this sense of self, this identity, is really an interaction between these two things. So, quick review of how we work. We're going to call this down here pain. Painful situations, touch a hot stove, it hurts, literally. Sends the signals up, we reflexively get back. We are wired to avoid pain. And so in this present moment, and this is what things that draw you into the present, and where the sense of time seems to fade away, burn yourself on a hot stove. And it's in psychology, we talk about coping mechanisms. And one of the hardest coping mechanisms actually to treat is something called cutting. And people that are cutters, if you happen to be a cutter, it's a very effective way of actually bringing you into this present. And why is that so appealing? Is because the monkey mind, this monkey mind craziness of chatter going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, seems to go away. And so as it goes away, our experience of the present moment expands. Literally, we are more present. And so this capacity for presence is one of the key things in coming full circle to this observer. In my book, Driven, I talk a lot about the logical container. What is a logical container? It is a logical, rational part of the observing ego that this can look in at this experience of pain, burning myself on a hot stove. And it's very simply hurts. But this hurt is then tied with time. And that is what you walk into the kitchen then, and the invisible radar out to the world is looking for patterns that match. It sees square box with 4 circles on top. We're wired to be scared of that. And so fear interacting with this pain. And that is what the Buddha called suffering, or dukkha. The oldest, one of the best ways of conceiving this is that we have resistance to the imaginary pain that's coming up in the future. And so here you are back to the metaphor about sitting on the couch come February. You're starting to see some results in the body from making it to the gym 4 days a week. What happens is that the resistance in the elephant starts to become greater. That doesn't make sense. Like, why would the elephant want to resist something good? And here's the key, because it's different. And so the resistance that we have, anything that is different, we start to resist, whether it's good or bad. And that was really my doctoral dissertation about how these two operating systems, this one can imagine the 6-pack abs. This one wants the familiar to know where all of these pain points that were created from the past are. So it wants to be able to navigate. So why are you dating the same kind of person again and again and again? Why are you doing these things over and over and over, even though they aren't going to work out because they're familiar? So you don't need to go diving deep into your past to figure all this stuff out. This is the real key to this video, is understanding the present moment is not static. And it's not. As you take a big breath in and actually start to feel or experience just the sensations in your body, our awareness of the present moment starts to go up. And our concept of self, or this constant chatter in the monkey mind that's always looking for something that scares us, that we need to be concerned about. It's a fear-based problem solver. And so here's the key to this whole thing right here. This is this present. I'm in full circle to Heidegger. He called this our beingness. And so this is time. And this little interaction right here is what lit his candle, lights my candle too. It's because it's where our being intersects with this concept of time. Here's the core of what I'm trying to teach right here. So killing of self. And here's our familiar, here's your birth. Here's time. Here's this present moment. I always write pain here. It's all this joy. So here's the present moment. Man, what is pain? And physical pain, as a species, we're wired to avoid that. Emotional pain. Is there a difference between physical pain, burning yourself, and emotional pain? Not inside this monkey mind. They register the same. So imagining the death of a loved one, it's going to physically hurt. And you can see me grabbing my heart. It's actually the oxytocin leaves the heart space and it starts to constrict. It pulls the fascia of the diaphragm up and it pulls this lump in the throat down. It pulls your shoulders in and it like literally breaks your heart. And those experiences are because it is the concept of two, or separating. Separating us from what? Something that actually makes us feel good. Something that actually makes us feel connected. So we call this joy, or a big number one. Meaning that we are coming in contact. Think about coming into a room full of people that you love, everyone hugging, and say, oh, it feels so good. Bomb goes off in the room, half the people die. Oh, immediately goes to this separation. And so this pain and joy continuum, in Tibetan Buddhism, they very simply call these hell realms. And this is heaven realms. Where is fear in this? Fear and regret do not exist in this present moment. What is the only thing that exists in this present moment? Is this amazing continuum. I'll go back here to the awareness. This is consciousness in relation to our physical body. And so a lot of practitioners try transcendental meditation or transcendent practices, where they're actually trying to transcend and go up, away from reality. And so I always joke about the yoga heads walking around on a bliss cloud. You got the dreadlocks and the patchouli oil, and they're so happy all the time. Yeah, because they're floating up around here. What's the problem with that? They're not seeing reality. Most people that come into my office are somewhere down around here. And this is how capitalism works. that if only I had a new car, a new this, I would be more likely to be accepted into the herd up here. And so this pull towards getting rid of things that experience-wise, not reality, experience-wise, feel like they're separating us from the herd. And if we get them, we're going to be more likely to be in the herd. And so this dynamic between heaven and hell and time is what Heidegger and I'm really impassioned about. Because once you can actually get this concept about how the present moment, more importantly, our beingness, this concept of being, rather than human doing, it's a human being. And introduce this concept, I'm going to make a couple more videos on it, about bandwidth. This is how much bandwidth you have is how much tolerance you have for the sensations in your body. Let's say that again. So the concept of bandwidth, then, at the edge of my bandwidth, meaning that you're at the edge of your tolerance for feeling this pain. This is pain. Going back to the sitting on the couch in February, why are we resistant to this joy of actually getting into the body more is because it's unfamiliar. And most of us on this planet, we have this horrible habit, even more than a habit, it's our biology. We're wired to survive. We're wired for fear. We're wired to be very familiar with all of this junk down here and talk to a lot of people. And how do you know you're feeling good today? Well, I'm not anxious. I'm not this. I'm not this. I'm not this. I'm not this. Well, what about this? We're terrible. I mean, I do this in what I teach. All right, everyone take out a piece of paper and on one side, write the 10 things down that you're worried about, scared about. All right, great. Flip the paper over. Now write 10 things that you're actually feeling grateful for. And never fails that, sitting there, first 10 things of fear, you can just rip them out, because that is what this machine between the ears is designed to do. And what about the joy? We have very few words or experiences that really are encoded in the body. We pay attention to the sticks rather than the carrots. That's just biology. So breaking this habit, the gratitude journaling and all of the kind of the practices that I use and teach all my clients are really effective. One of the most effective things, though, and really the point of this video, is to understand about this present moment. There is no fear, and that will set you free, truly set you free. And I call it the sickle principle, meaning that where is safety in this world? And it's one place, it's right here and right now. And I mean now. Call it the sickle, it's a true story. They proved it on Mythbusters. The guy sitting in the middle of Midland, Texas, I believe, and its giant blue frozen ball of poop comes hurtling out of space, fell off a 747. And so as you flush toilets on an airplane, makes your ears pop because the cabin is pressurized, the holding tank is not, and they tend to leak this warm blue liquid outside of the airplane, minus 65 degrees on the outside of the airplane. They turn into these big giant balls of frozen poop, sickle. And this thing comes hurtling out of space and kills him dead. That's always true, but it's not happening now. Not happening now. And so this awareness that I am safe, and burn this into your brain. Safety is not a feeling. Safety is not a feeling. Safety is not a feeling. What do I mean by that? Safety is a state of being. And this beingness, it's in my being. I am safe. Well, how does that make you feel? And this is where this starts to get really deep and tied into a whole bunch of different understandings of trauma. What trauma does. trauma stored in the body. So here's the present moment. Here's our beingness. Here's the hell realms. I'll keep it simple. Here's heaven. Here's fear. And this concept of bandwidth, most of us have very narrow bandwidths, and they're usually set down here. We can tolerate a little bit of happiness, quite a bit of misery. Actually, we're pretty good at dealing with the suck. But as a certain point, as you get down to this edge of the bandwidth, what happens is literally the elephant takes control of your life. And what do I mean by that? It's my daughter has a pterodactyl scream. When she was little, she would let out this blood-curdling scream. And if she was crying, I'd be okay. But the moment that blood-curdling scream hit me, I was forced into action. I had to change something that was going on right now in the future. Otherwise, I would actually do something with my elephant. I would lose control. The monkey mind would lose control. And I'm in full circle back to this concept of the logical container. Soul strength is the ability to actually keep this truth, this reality in mind, that right now, even though she's screaming bloody murder, there's nothing wrong. I am safe. Yeah, but it feels terrible. And as this, it's literally causing pain in my body. So if I have the capacity to actually not react to these sensations in my body, I keep them sensations. And another key point to this, so there is no fear in the present, there's also no emotion. And I always joke that, an emotion has never gotten me in trouble, ever once. You take the E off, big trouble. Turn that emotion into motion. And that's this gap. We talk about the sober pause, you talk about the ability to actually hold it together. That's this observing ego being able to keep these sensations in the body from opening your mouth or actually causing you to try to change the environment. Once you understand that concept that you can hold sensations in the present and really let fear go, let the future go, this ever expanding bandwidth begins to do some really interesting things. What happens in trauma? And when we have the capacity or the bandwidth to actually allow for sensations to come into the body, and we can let this future go. More importantly, we can let the narrative, the monkey mind go. We can sit in this observer and actually experience these sensations rolling through the body, very unpleasant sensations. We'll tell you that at times. But what's happening is these recordings, DNA set recordings in the body are coming in and just starting to play themselves out. And Peter Levine with self-protective motor responses, it's the things in our body. In classic book, another book on it, is why zebras don't have ulcers. It's because when they go into this sense of safety, or they go into a herd where they find their safety, and they are able to actually keep this reality. So if you think about the power of that, and you go back to the first metaphor is that, doctoral dissertation metaphor, that you're stuck to the couch in February, and you start to get up to go to the gym, you can feel this lethargy and this resistance in the body. Here's a key point. Resistance for some future activity. I don't want to go to the gym. It's going to hurt. It's going to suck. Monkey mind, making all of the excuses. Let all that go. And you feel this resistance. And as you get more and more present and you gain greater capacity, there is no resistance in the present moment. None. There can't be. If you're feeling resistance to some future activity, that's where the dynamic happens. That's how we sabotage ourselves. That's how we stay stuck. That's why you don't break up with the person you're dating, because I don't want to feel this future pain. And so I'm going to resist leaving, even though I know it's not good for me. And so that dynamic between monkey, elephant, and observer, where the observer is literally allowing the monkey mind, this problem solver, to go offline, really, truly go offline. And you're just observing then the sensations in the body. And what happens is, let's say this big old painful sensation is coming into the body and it starts to constrict the body. There is, thank God, an equal and opposite truth associated with every single trauma. How do I know that? It's, getting kicked out of the herd. When I was a little kid, ADD, ADHD, and being driven, we already feel like we're out of the herd. And so there's this desire to really be part of the herd. And sitting in my second grade class, getting made fun of because I can't spell. I still can't spell, on spectrum with some of that dyslexia stuff. But this image of everyone looking at me as I was being told that I didn't get another, that I failed the spelling test again. Oh, terrible sensation. And if I let that stay unconsciously steering my reality, meaning that every time I see the red little squiggly line as I'm typing away, and it feels this crap. But what's the truth? Being able to sit with that feeling that, I really want to be part of the herd. Very quickly, these sensations start to expand again. And so this is a biological reaction to how trauma is released from the body. And so every time I look at the typing along and I see that red little squiggly line, I wouldn't be where I am today without that red little squiggly line, without this motivation to actually bring this content to the world. And so understanding how that trauma served a purpose, more importantly, it is actually an asset. It's actually, it makes me part of the herd even more. This magic vortex literally comes into this center point. Here's the most important part of this, and it's a miracle. We're to the stage now in our ability to really look at the DNA over time. These things, because they match up, are literally erased from the body. So the next time I see a red squiggly line, it pings me a little bit, but it's mostly this blue. It feels good to not spell right. It's like, well, how bad is it to misspell? Thank God for computers now, and AI is fixing all of that. We don't even have to know how to spell anymore. But it is this ability to actually see how joy and pain, one cannot exist without the other. And so, should we be scared of pain? Obviously, yes. There are real snakes in this world. But if we're living in this state of hell realms all the time, we're living in a constant state of fear, all we see is snakes. Coming full circle back to the transcendental hippies, that are riding around here, everything's one and everything's beautiful. You don't see the damn snakes. And so this is the key point. This design, this moment of being in time where it interacts. In this observer, we're stuck in this meat suit that has this operating system. Sum up very simply, key couple takeaways, this present moment. What is the only thing in the present moment? What would you call this, where it's both heaven and hell, but this dynamic interaction where you can't have pain without joy? When I call it love. So the only thing that exists in the present moment is love. And, I'm very spiritual, and one of my favorite names for God is presence. But it's being in the present is your relationship to God. And, God is both heaven and hell happening here and now. Fear and perfect love, as the book says, casts out all fear. And so this dynamic interaction, being able to logically understand this is our biology. This is, we're stuck in this meat suit. This is what we are. but we can expand our capacity and our tolerance, knowing that, this hell I'm going through is temporary, and it's here to serve me and teach me, not something I need to avoid. But there are plenty of things in this world that are snakes and you do want to avoid. So this gives us an opportunity, though, to do something called discernment or, discrimination, being able to figure out, is it a snake or is it a stick? Well, you're going to resist, and then curiosity. And so that resistance is the elephant biology and then the curiosity. Other key takeaway, I'll say, there is no resistance in the present moment, none. And if you like this video, and this there's a lot of info in this video, go back and look at the self-psychology video. It really gives a basic outline of this, and it might help understand it. The videos I've got coming up, this is leading to really a concept of bandwidth. And the bandwidth video that's coming out very soon is really explaining how to increase the bandwidth and really how to experience the edge of the bandwidth and not try to push past it. If you're driven like I am, well, let's kick its ass. It doesn't work. And you got to make small changes and keep them.